Hello, hello, how are you? Welcome to another community call, Wednesday, 27th of May of 2026. How are you, Jean? All good?
Doing great. And you?
I'm doing great. We have a few things for today. In particular, we are going to speak about Kleros Enterprise and explain a bit how, people typically say that all of the crypto industry is a bit like out of touch with every person, everyone's reality in the everyday world, like everyday people, which to some extent could be true. This is unfortunately for because of a number of reasons. Um, it has come to attention of people because of speculation or finance and stuff. But we always say that at the end of the day, what matters is the problem you are trying to solve with technology. Should not be just in love with the technology and try to implement it in stuff for which the technology, is not useful for. So. And one of the things that I like, I'm supposed to say that, but I think that everyone likes about Kleros is that it's a use case of blockchain where it makes sense in the sense of the blockchain technology is not a technology that one implements just because likes the technology, but it's actually a very important part of creating trust in a use case where trust is everything. When you have a dispute resolution situation, you have two parties that are in a conflict situation and where they don't trust each other, and so everything that you could do to increase the amount of trust between parties is going to make the use case work. So we have over the years and different calls we had explained a number of situations where this happens and where Kleros can provide solutions. Last month we spoke a lot about the DeFi because of the Aave situation on the problem with the Kelp bridge and all the collateralization problem, which is a use case where Kleros is actually important and where we think Kleros can provide solutions. And we have explained how this is now being used for certification of acceptable collaterals for DeFi protocols. And we even wrote a chapter for a book that we submitted recently, explaining how Kleros can make DeFi more secure. But today we're going to just go to the type of topics that Aunt Rosita from Kurusu Kwatia likes more and that she can understand, which is like a dispute resolution in more consumer situations, neighborhood situations, neighbors disputes. I guess everyone has disputes with neighbors and with companies, right, Jean?
Yes, maybe not everyone had like a DeFi hack, and I don't know.
Hopefully not.
Yeah, hopefully not. At this point, maybe yes, but yeah, everyone had a problem with an airline or something that you received on an e-commerce. Let's say it was wrong or you ordered something else. So well, the internet is filled with people complaining about these types of problems. So yeah, I think this is something really good that Kleros is doing. It's
Yeah. Also, for people who, maybe you don't follow, but Jean is from Brazil, which is actually one of the most litigious countries in the world, and this is why Brazil has developed like a very big like infrastructure for like consumer protection agencies. Maybe you can explain. This is part of the Brazilian DNA for some reason, Jean, the consumer protection, ecosystem.
I don't know exactly how it happened, but well, every Brazilian cares a lot about receiving exactly what you're paying for. So whenever you have an issue, people have this site called Reclame Aqui. So you can go there and basically explain your situation directly on a page that is like shown to every people that look for a particular company. So if they don't respond on a couple of days, they get exposed, let's say, and their score start to decrease. So the companies are they are let's say motivated to answer and have like a good reputation, and this is something that everyone can see. But also there's another part, like there's lots of disputes going to small claims courts. There's lots of actual like traditional justice cases, and maybe as any other country in the world, the justice is not as fast as people want. So usually it's like still with all these alternative systems, there's still like lots of resources that go to lawyers, go into traditional courts, and lots of spending of the government to try to solve these cases. So yeah, this is like the situation.
Over the years during the fellowship, we had like a number of people like Brazilians who came to the fellowship. We have like one now called Felipe, and then we had others over the past year. But and they always come, and this is for them like the thing is they want to implement like Kleros dispute resolution, like for consumer claims in Brazil. This is kind of the obsession. I would say the Brazilian obsession is like this use case of Kleros, and it's like because it's in the culture, it's in the DNA kind of thing. I don't know. Maybe this can have to do like with being in general like a low trust society. I always saw Brazil like as a typically low trust society where there's like because there's a history of violence, even racial divisions. So I don't know. Maybe it's that. I mean, I can only judge from the outside because I'm Argentina. I mean, it's not Argentina is not the highest trust society in the world. Let me say that. I don't know. Do you have a thesis about this, Jean, about like why this obsession with the litigation? I don't know.
I feel that the maybe Brazil is a little bit like the US, since it's like a huge country. So everything that changes on a given law or happens with a company usually affects like millions of people sometimes. Right. So maybe that's like everything is like on a different scale than in Argentina and maybe other countries.
How many people live in Brazil? Like 250 million? I don't know. It's like a continent.
Yeah, I think 200 million or something. Yeah.
200 million. I mean,
and also
for
for e-commerce and like the amount of money that flows through e-commerce in Brazil is huge, because Brazil is also like a huge country. So there's lots of people buying from the internet and not maybe it's a different type of country, let's say, than Argentina.
Actually, the comparison you do with the US is I always thought of that. It's a kind of like the US and Brazil. They have this thing that to me it's very similar. It's like both countries in the like time of the colony like had like tropical crops. The US had like the cotton, and then Brazil had the sugar cane, and then this created like an economy of slavery. Lots of slaves going from Africa to the south of the US and then Brazil, and then like this created, I think, like a very big like racial divide that created a structure of society that I think endures these days. This past of slavery. This past of oppression was kind of something that is still like something that is lived today, because this created like a income distribution pattern that even after slavery ended and that, but still poverty patterns are still the same. Okay, I don't know what I mean. Yeah, this let's say that's just super. We could do a webinar on this in particular.
Yeah, there's just another thing that I think is also explains a little bit, is that Brazil was a very poor country until maybe the 80s or 90s, and then it grew a lot. So it's like a country in like a development with, I don't know, high velocity of development, let's say. So that's and when that happened, there's like people that do not get like the rights that they need, and companies maybe abusing and these types of stuff. So
yeah,
so it would be great to bring a lawyer from Brazil.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I already recommended to do The Secret Agent. So if you want to, it's a good movie. I mean, not everyone will like it, but if you will like a Brazilian, I mean, some of my favorite films of all time are actually Brazilian. One of my top 5 films in my life, like when we do the Federico movie experiment. So one of them will be Cidade de Deus, City of God, of the favela of this Fernando Meirelles, and this is like amazing. These are 1970s, like violence in the favela, the narcos, gangs, and how it started. How the city, the little kid of the 1950s, like being, raised in that environment, ends up becoming a narco, and then how this self-perpetuates, in an environment of violence, drugs, and that. And of course, Tropa de Elite with Wagner Moura. I knew about, but I saw that in the very, very early days. This is also amazing. The number 2 is also very, very good when he becomes like a politician and has to fight the system from the inside and all of the corruption. So 3 recommendations from Federico: Brazilian movies. City of God. If you haven't watched City of God, just stop watching this webinar. And then just go watch City of God. Do yourself that favor. Then Tropa de Elite, Tropa de Elite 2, of course, and then Estación Central. Did you see Estación Central, Jean? This is also so.
Well,
beautiful,
it's so
right?
sad. So sad. I think it's hard to watch it again because it's so sad. Yeah.
And it's a woman who writes letters for people who are illiterate in a train station, and then she and what else do we have from Brazilian movies that we could recommend? Those are those that come to mind now. Anything else?
I know some that maybe are only for I don't know if they translate well to people from outside Brazil, but there's O Alto da Compadecida. It's from the northeast of Brazil, and kind of folklore from the region, and the actors are super funny, and there are others that
Yeah. The War of the End of the World. Do you know the book of this? This is a book, actually. I don't know. There should be a movie. It's a Vargas Llosa book. It's like a guy who was like a messiah, let's say, a religious leader in the end of slavery time, and he's a religious person. And there is this book by Vargas Llosa. It's called The War of the End of the World, and you can check it. Okay, Well, thank you guys for watching this introduction to Brazilian culture and politics and society. So now, let's talk a bit about Kleros. Why we were speaking of this? Because we, as you know, for some time we are developing different enterprise use cases. Enterprise use cases, they cover a lot of different things. In general, we call enterprise any type of implementation of Kleros where there is a trusted element in the process. This means that you have the enforcement being done by a government or a traditional company. In the case of Lemon, the company accepts the decision of Kleros as binding. So you kind of trust the decision of the company, the promise of the company to enforce the decision made by the jury of Kleros. You still have the on-chain part, which is the jury decision on all of the process. Everyone can see that was developed as was expected with the right procedure and all that. So that is one way to do it. Another way to do it is through a government. So as you know, we have a number of partnerships. First one with Mendoza to use Kleros in small judge in a tribunal in a city called Lavalle in Mendoza, and this happened. How this works is, you have a case, neighborhood dispute. There was a car crash, and who should pay for the repair of the car or stuff like that. And then this goes to a judge in this place, and then this is sent to Kleros for a decision. The jury makes a decision following the policy and all that, and then the judge enforces the decision made by Kleros. The judge can still overrule the decision if thinks it was wrong. That doesn't typically happen, but this is how it works. And then there's this other city called Junín, which is in the province of Buenos Aires, and this is a similar implementation. And we are having lots of cases coming from Junín. I think over the last few weeks we had 30 cases or something like that. We are having I don't know how many cases per month of Junín, quite a bit, and these are real cases coming from the real courts. Yeah,
I think we had 34 cases so far, and around 2 or 3 per week the last couple of weeks. So it's pretty good, constant stream of cases.
The thing that is really interesting here is that these are cases that happen, in a traditional setting. There is a city which has a consumer protection agency, and that agency has lots of consumer protection claims to handle. And they are understaffed and they are slow because of lack of resources, as happens in most governments. And then Kleros can help them through using like citizen juries to make decisions for the cases that they have. And this is working extremely well. And what we wanted to do now is to show you a bit of the use cases. I mean, because in a consumer court, you have like a lot of different consumer situations. Some of them involve like travel agencies, airlines, buying, selling cars. You have like others that are like neighborhood disputes. All you name it, there is a dispute because humans, unfortunately, or like maybe fortunately for those who are building Kleros, don't seem to always agree on things. So they end up in situations where there is a service of dispute resolution needed. So we will add now Lucía here into the call. And Lucía works in the enterprise sector, and she is like you might, maybe you saw her like on the social networks because she's a celebrity now, because she does like videos explaining cases, and she's very much in touch with the cases. And we will, discuss, so she can tell us a bit of some of the interesting cases that we received, so you can see how this is affecting like real life, real world people. This is not DeFi, like bridge hacks or like super complicated, like collateralization, situations. These are like people having disputes with companies, with other people, even with government sometimes, and then dispute resolution for this. Hello, Lucía. How are you?
Hello. I am doing well, thank you. How are you doing today?
All good. Well, I'll tell us a bit. 2 weeks ago, we had a webinar explaining some of the consumer protection cases that we are resolving. And one of the participants, Alejandra, who is the director of consumer protection at Junín, Alejandra Tomasone, she explained a very, I would say a famous case now, which is about a dispute between someone who had a health insurance and the health insurance company over some Can you explain a bit about what was that about, Lucía? So that was a very cool case.
Of course. Everything started because Alejandra was explaining how for her the speed of Kleros, it's very important. And she explained to us this specific case where a mother, her child has autism spectrum disorder, and he needed to have like a special treatment, and the insurance didn't want it to cover that for her, and she really needed that urgently, and she could not pay for it apart from her insurance. So basically at Kleros we were, the jurors were trying to see if the woman was right or if the health insurance was right. And at the end, the Kleros jurors gave the right to, they decided that the woman, the client, was right. And Alejandra was explaining to us how important for her was the speed of Kleros, because typically these type of cases take very long, but within the Kleros court, it's like 3 days. Once the evidence is uploaded and once the case is uploaded, it's just, in 3 days, you have a solution. So yeah, it was very, hearing her testimony was really great for us, because we could see the impact that this can have in people's lives. And yeah, basically that's
it. Also, when you have this situation, like the person needs it was for like a personal assistant, therapeutic assistant, I think, and then like the person needs it like today, they cannot wait until the court decides what will happen, so if it takes like 1 year to resolve, or months, the family needs to pay to the therapeutic assistant like from their own pocket. For some people, that is not trivial. I mean, maybe they don't even have the money for that. So that is really, really important that this is solved in just a few days. So this is, well, very important value proposition of Kleros for everyone here. So, and that was resolved in, do you remember exactly how long it took to Kleros to resolve the case?
I mean, I think it took around, as I told you, like 4 days, more or less, once the case is created. But I mean, where you were saying early, I mean, I am always reading the evidences and reading the cases. And what I can tell is that usually, I mean, even though we might think that this type of, I mean, this particular case was very important, of course, like a very urgent matter. But sometimes we receive cases, I don't know, related with e-commerce, or I don't know, someone bought a product from a supermarket and the product was broken and the supermarket doesn't want to give them their money back. And sometimes you might feel like that is a small claim, but for that particular person is not a small claim. Like, it really has an impact in their economy. So of course, for them, it's important. It's very important to have their money back. And usually, I mean, they need it quite urgently. Of course, not all of the cases, the consumer is right. Of course, it depends on the case. But that's something really, really interesting to see and to read. I mean, I am thinking of this particular case that is related with tourism. Like, this woman was explaining how she finally got to go like to vacation somewhere with her partner and her friends, and they bought, like, through Instagram, they bought like an excursion to do there, and they paid everything in advance, like 100%. The agency never showed up, and she tried to, I mean, she wrote them, she called them, like everything, and nothing happened. Like, they disappeared. And this was like a real company, and you can see how frustrated she was, because she saved a lot for this trip, and she wanted to have that excursion and she couldn't have it. So you always see those type of cases.
You know, this, like, we have a conversation ongoing with actually a city. I mean, of course, I cannot say which one, but I mean, I will think it this way. You are important tourist city. I mean, and then you have people coming from all over the world to do like trekking, to skiing, museums, or whatever happens in your city, and then people need to pay like tours, right? And then what happens is that, you know, you are a tourist coming from, you just come to the place for like 3 days, and then like you hire this tour or whatever, and then they don't show up, or the quality of the tour is not what was promised, or all of the things you can imagine. And then, you know, after this happens, I mean, they ruin your vacation for sure, and then, but you have to go back to your place. And I mean, you're not going to go to court, I mean, with a lawyer in Argentina to continue the case against the tour agent for like $100, $200, or $500, whatever. I mean, imagine how cool would it be if you kind of can pay your tour, and then the money stays into an escrow until the tour ends. And then if you're happy, you will release the money. If all good, everyone is happy. If you're not happy, you kind of can call Kleros to decide who should get the money from that day. Well, imagine how important is an advantage for your city compared to other cities if all of the tourists, like tour operators and all of the tourists, you know, like companies, have to abide by this regulation in order to get the certificate of like a company. I mean, abiding, you know, company for tourism, and how the city ends up getting like a reputation for like a great place for vacationing. You know, so everyone will have good memories, and if they don't, they will get their money back. So this is what we are trying to do. I mean, I cannot say where it's going to happen, but if this happens and it actually works, where it's going to work, I mean, this could be like a great way to. So I mean, and I want this to work with that escrow thing, you know, because money stays there locked until the service is delivered, and then 99% of the times it's going to just go to the, I guess, operator, but sometimes no. So this is an important thing worth mentioning about how Kleros can be implemented in this like a real life setting. What else do we have, Lucia? What other cases worth mentioning?
I was thinking that another interesting thing that happens with this type of cases with, Junín and governments, is that you see that there are many parties involved, like always, of course, the consumer, and then you have maybe like multiple companies. This usually happens in the airline or tourism companies, and how like no one wants to take care of the problem. Like usually, I don't know, for example, I am thinking of one of our last cases where a woman, she traveled and they lost their luggage. Her luggage was lost, but then they found it and they sent it to her house. And when she opened it, she saw that there were items missing, items probably stolen, we don't know. And the thing is that in this trip, there were two airlines involved and one company, the translation company, involved. So the reality is that in this, the three of them, the three parties involved, they didn't knew who was guilty of this problem. And usually in these type of cases, it's difficult to decide, you know, and Kleros seems to have like at least an answer usually for this. And yeah, it's interesting to see how sometimes when many parties are involved, it's harder to reach an agreement, because usually, of course, companies will try to defend themselves, of course.
About that, I think we also had some situation where the jurors were unsure if the consumer defense department was like the right organization to solve the case, or if it should be handled by the national agency, right? And looks like different provinces have different let's say jurisdictions, and in this particular case Kleros was capable of solving the case, and I think this is something that like Federico has just mentioned, maybe some provinces that will try to handle the cases themselves will have like a better reputation, because then they can give like more assurances to the citizens that they will solve the cases faster, right?
No, that's for sure. You know, competition between cities. I mean, this is a very important thing of. I mean, the U.S., for example, in the U.S. you can see like states competing with each other to attract, you know, like investment businesses. You know, you this is very clear now. You know, in particular in the crypto industry. You know, all of the crypto projects that were born in like California, crypto, and also in many technology in general, not just crypto. I mean, moving to Texas or Florida because of like a better like conditions for like a talent access, and also, you know, a regulatory environment. This is really clear in the US. It's less clear in many other places, but I mean, but competition between cities is extremely like important, and in particular in tourism. You know, if you want to, I mean, you all the time you see what are the best places to vacation in Europe for this summer. I mean, if you have like a really good, I mean, a trusted place to go for vacation, because you are not going to. I mean, I get to travel a lot, most of the time for going to conferences, and I mean, we're a cooperative, so we don't usually go to the most fancy hotels. So I mean, typically, I mean, I have stories that you wouldn't believe of like a little like, especially in the early days where we were like more struggling with the funding, and then like those days, you know, we had like I want to really not recommend of hotels, and they have lots of stories about those places. Like one guy, I mean, this is interesting. I was going to the hotel, and then it was a place, and the guy, can I have your passport? And the guy like, yeah, sure. And then the guy takes his phone. I mean, like 2017 maybe Android phone full of scratches, and smashed, and he wants to take a picture of my passport. I mean, that was not GDPR, compliant for sure. And I was like, what are you doing? I mean, I'm taking a picture of your passport. But I mean, this doesn't look like a great thing. I mean, this is a bit uncomfortable. And the guy was like, do you want to stay in the hotel or not? I mean, okay, I'm not going to tell you, how the story ended. But I mean, if I had a trusted distributor solution system for that, would have been easier for me. I mean, so yeah.
Of course.
I don't know. I guess everyone has some stories like that, right? Not that extreme, maybe.
So we had people from the team losing their luggage. We have a little bit
one person from the team losing her luggage several times, actually.
Twice. Yes.
That is how conspiracy theories are born. Only one person from the team ever lost its luggage, and it was the same person. I think it was 3 times, actually. We will have to check that, but it was it was statistically, not random, to be honest. So there's something going on there. Okay, let's speak a bit about construction. Lucía, do we have construction cases?
Yes, we do. We've been receiving some of them. One that that I remember the most is about this woman. She was going to build her house, and she agreed with the construction industry to have the house ready for a certain amount of time. I think it was around 6 months, and she paid 95% of everything in advance. And they started with building this house, but they never finished it. And a lot of time passed by. I think it was around 1 year, and an inspector went to the house, and he saw that everything was in not the best conditions. And when she took this to the consumer defendant, she was explaining how she paid almost everything and the house was not ready at all. And on the other hand, the construction company, what they were saying is that she requested many changes that were not stipulated in the contract, in the first agreement. But the thing is that they didn't have anything to prove what they were saying. So mainly because of that reason and other reasons, the jurors decided to give her, they decided that she was right, the consumer. Those are usually.
And what happened? So, did they explain? A bit, because everyone at Kleros, jurors explained the decision. What did they say about do you remember what they say in the justification?
I can find it quite quickly. I think it's this one.
In the meantime, I can tell that this is important for us because arbitration in the construction industry is extremely important. But there are one of the main arbitration segments is construction, shopping malls, like bridges, all of the big infrastructure projects sometimes end up in problems because of delays, because of poor quality of construction, because of you name it, you can imagine. And then this ends up, and a big part of the industry of dispute resolution and arbitration actually is about this. So the fact that Kleros is already resolving construction cases is extremely important, because you will go to arbitration for a $500 million bridge, but you're not going to go to arbitration for a sado place in your house, or you a new roof or stuff like that. So a situation where having an escrow payment and a dispute resolution connected to it, Kleros, it could actually solve lots of $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 dollar disputes, which are extremely common in the construction industry. And going to court is not convenient. Going to small claims court is not convenient. So you could have Kleros panel evaluating photos, evaluating what both parties are arguing, and then decide this. This is a really a great use case for Kleros. So now we can show the case now. I mean, do we have the decision there?
I mean, I think
all of these are cases, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I cannot find it because we had so many. But
you can show it. You can show it. I mean, yeah, because there's people who are watching. Maybe they haven't seen the interface. So this is. Tell us a bit about what this is, Lucia. I mean, the interface.
Yeah. So usually.
One second, just to mention, this seems to be like a construction case. Maybe it is another one, but it looks like,
I think so.
Yeah.
Construction. Yeah, I think it's maybe. I think it's a construction case.
Let me check other evidences.
If it is not this one, is the other one. I remember that we received two.
It's not far from this one.
Yeah.
This is about a prefabricated house. I don't know if this.
Yeah. Okay.
But still a construction.
But explain the interface. You know, this is the justification of a jury, of a panel, of a juror, and then they explain how this works, so people who don't know how the enterprise applications work, I mean, so they know a bit more.
Yes, basically we have two interfaces. One that is more like debug. There is this one, that is the one that jurors will see. And usually we create the case, we have like a question and the possible answers. There we also charge the evidence, and then jurors are, of course, drawn to vote, and they give their justification. And of course, they can also appeal. But then we also have another interface that it's more, I would say, maybe like user-friendly. That is the one that we send to governments, for example, with the resolution. But yeah, mainly this one, it's the one where you can see all of the cases and the evidences and the answers of the jurors. And I think it's quite, it's quite easy for them to understand. As you know,
what we're seeing here is like the evidence that was presented by parties for like a case, right?
Yes.
So of course, is a form. This is the contract between parties, and then there is a form. And I think I saw a receipt. You know, this is what I paid for this construction work, right? So this is what we are seeing here.
Yes, and usually the amount of money involved and what they want to get in return. Usually it's the whole file that Alejandra from Junín sent us.
So this is important for people to see how this works, because otherwise it's hard to understand. But this is really what jurors see, and this is what jurors need to evaluate. This is the contract, this is the payment that was done, this is the receipt, this is whatever. And then people evaluate this and then make a decision based on this evidence, and then this decision is communicated to the Junín Consumer Protection Agency, and then they enforce the decision made by Kleros, and this is done in just a few days instead of weeks, right? So I want you to show, Jean, there was a badge there. When I want people to see the badge, it was like a consumer protection lawyer badge. I mean, this is really, so that. Can you explain what this is, Lucia, this badge?
Yes, basically, this is like every juror from this particular court, they are lawyers with experience in consumer protection. And when they are onboarded to this new court, they receive an NFT that basically is this badge that makes us know that they are certified by Kleros Consumer Protection Lawyer in Argentina. So yeah, it's basically that, which was a huge change. And thanks to this new badge and thanks to this new court, we started receiving many cases from Junín. And yeah, and also maybe we didn't mention the dispute policy. I am seeing that it's right there under policy documents. The dispute policy usually explains some legal rules and the way that jurors needs to justify their votes. So it's basically some rules related with, in this case, Argentinian law. And also, usually there are some guidelines regarding, what a good justification is. Because usually the jurors, the vote is important, but I would say that the justification is even more important, because that's what matters the most to Junín. So it's very important for them to give us a very good justification.
Exactly. Okay, so let's stop here, because we have like tons more. I mean, just I can tell you that we have like cases related to like buying cars, cases like about consumer electronics. I mean, I'm seeing like a list here, banking, like fintech. Well, we spoke about tourism. Well, we have like tons of them, but we will do like maybe another call. We will present a few more. But I think it was important for people to see what is the type of cases that Kleros is currently, solving now. I mean, these are cases that already are in the past. I mean, this is not an idea we have. This is not something we might want to do. This is cases that were resolved by jurors who, in this case, they are lawyers because they are required to have a soulbound token on a badge that makes them eligible for these cases. If you don't have that badge, I'm sorry, but you cannot be eligible for resolving dispute, because in some cases it's important that the court access is waitlisted to people with some kind of expertise, or people who actually are residents of some place, because you might want Junín cases to be resolved by Junín residents because they know the city, they know the culture, and know, how things are done there. So we will do another one of these to explain a bit more, and maybe even call the jurors to explain how they evaluated the evidence, and then they can give us more like a first-hand overview of everything. So
yeah, I have two points to talk about this. I don't know.
We are implementing technology. I just didn't want to tell you to spoil it, but the special effect department is working hard for those balloons. To pop up. So good job.
Yeah. Let me do it again. Let's see if it worked. No, didn't work.
You're fired, guys. So.
Yes.
Okay.
So one important part of this, of all these different industries, is that it gets easier for our BizDev team to go to a particular company of any of these industries and say, look, we solved this case about whatever that you do, and it was enforced by a real judge on this city. So if we solved 10 cases about this, we can solve your cases. So it's very different than just showing like any other type of cases that you can imagine that the jurors will be able to solve, but you do not have like a proof. And another interesting thing is that the jurors that are solving these cases, they're getting more and more expertise. So when you get one of the first cases, maybe about, for example, let's say banking or an airline case, maybe they know a little bit about the topic. But after they have like 20 cases about this, then you know that every new case about this will be solved like with a high quality and a lot of details and kind of some case log almost, but something like that, right? So this is pretty cool.
That's actually, interesting. When we were doing like the early tests of Kleros, and we were like, after the Dodge on trial, when the first cases that we had like tokens and all that, people were like, you could see that there was like jurisprudence being formed in Kleros, and people started to citing like old cases, and sometimes when I speak into like arbitration, very, very high quality level arbitration experts, they typically, this question comes up, do you have a jurisprudence in Kleros? What happened? Do new cases are they resolved based on previous decisions? Is this something or not in Kleros? And I sometimes explain what we saw in the very early days in the Dodgers on trial, when you had like this Doge of a dog, or like not a dog, it's the King of Venice, and then people were saying, but we accepted that one, and you could see how people started to explain new cases and decide new cases based on previous decisions. And there is also one fellow, Mary, who did report to start building a precedent case law for Kleros, and she organized like the information in such a way that it can be used for better. I mean, what you see happening in traditional legal systems over like decades, you can see it happening in a matter of weeks. I mean, Kleros in that sense is like a legal system at the speed of light. Everything goes fast, and and agents at some point, and record me saying this, Gene. Agents at some point will, start to cite all agents, decisions to justify why they rule in some way when, there is a dispute between agents in a metaverse world, right? So this will definitely happen. Thank you, Lucia. We will have you back in a few maybe weeks to discuss a bit more cases. Let's go now to William, who is here, and we have a lot of things going on with William. How are you?
I'm good.
Good. Well, tell us what's going on in the week. Yeah, an update.
Yeah, lots of things going on. So as I mentioned the previous few times on this call, we have an upcoming tour of talks at various UK universities, and we're going to get different aspects of our research. So we're going to have I think in 2 weeks, talk at KCL, where I'm going to talk about my various social choice theory research, all the mechanism design that goes into choosing the right voting system and incentives for Kleros. Still doing a lot of work, kind of building on the ECC talk that I gave a few months ago on how kind of vote splitting manifests itself a little differently in a crowdsourced incentivized system like Kleros compared to the kind of vote splitting you might remember from political elections. So I'm going to talk about that and continue to do that kind of research. And then also, as it's fashionable, doing a lot of research related to AI. We're giving a panel at Oxford, I think on, June 11th, something?
9th of June in the afternoon. So if you want to go, if you're in the UK or you want to travel to the UK to go to Oxford, do sign up, because these limited places, this is going to take place at Cadbury College, co-hosted by Kleros and the Department of Law, and in particular the Social Legal Studies Center at the Department at the Law Faculty of Law and the Department of Computer Science. We have 2 panels. First panel about legal elements, particularly how Kleros is an arbitration solution and how it can be considered like a private legal order. This, Oxford is maybe the a #1 place in the world where you have all of the researchers that are doing private legal order stuff. For example, that's Stanford as well. You have Fernanda Pidie, who is very high-level scholar, author of a book, an excellent book called The Rule of Laws, and it's how rule of law evolved since Hammurabi, basically. It's a very long book with the evolution of legal systems, and then and she is going to be the moderator of a panel, and then we will have another 2 professors, Florian Griesel, who is going to be, you can show it there. And you can go down a bit so people can see the schedule. So we have there you go. Florian Griesel is a professor at the Comité National de Recherche Scientifique of France and also at Oxford, and he studies type of legal orders in the context of resource distribution, common goods pools, and the fisheries, like a type of cases where we discussed this last week of the Marseille fishermen, people and Canal fishermen, and how they decide where they can fish or not based on the amount of fish there is, and if everyone wants to fish all they can, then the tragedy of the commons, and then there's no fish for anyone, or all of this game theoretical situation, and how this can be resolved in a decentralized way where there is not a central authority that can decide who gets to fish where. They have to agree between them. So that is the research that Florian does. And then Nicole Stremlau, she also is researches these type of topics in the digital world. So that is an excellent, going to be a great panel. And I'm going to speak about Kleros as a legal order based on private principles. And then we have a little coffee break. And then, I will let William explain about the computer science session. So yeah, because he's the expert here.
Yeah, so for this talk, I'm going to talk about the various kind of technical research that I do. It's going to be a mixed audience. There'll be lawyers in the room, so I'll try to have something that be accessible for a general public. A bit more of the kind of mechanism design, similar to the sort of voting and incentive system stuff that I research and talk about all the time. But then also going to focus on how decentralized justice systems can interact with AI. We wrote this book chapter that was recently published online in Wolters Kluwer that about our various tests of what various ways we think that decentralized justice interacts with AI. But specifically, if we give past cases to different AI models, to what degree do they align with each other? To what degree do they reflect human rulings? To what degree can you game divergences in the way that the different AIs will rule to try to get them to rule on your behalf? And we had a bunch in that article. We have a whole bunch of tests where we considered kind of curate cases, which was a big corpus of cases that we gave to different AI models and looked at how they ruled compared to human beings. And in this talk, I'm going to show some similar results we have, but for lemon cases, which might be a bit more accessible to lawyer audiences. We observe things like some AIs are stricter than others, or they're more favoring of the company versus the user, even if they have a similar kind of error rate, when you compare them to how they rule versus the human Kleros jurors.
Yeah.
Those errors may be distributed differently, where it's all the errors are voting for the company instead of the human versus instead of the user versus more balanced. Sometimes they're diverged from the Kleros jury, but it can go in either way. So I'll talk about the various results they have in that sense.
Then just comment. I mean, this is a huge rabbit hole that we are getting into now because the use of AI in the context of dispute resolution. I mean, this has been discussed for a long time. The thing now is that there are different ways in which you can use it, anonymizing information, or we use it in different ways because anonymizing information, helping make the report for a case when one of the parties in a consumer claims case doesn't know how to write it clearly because, not everyone needs to be a lawyer, right? So the AI can help you with that. But, the holy grail, if you want, is the use of AI for making decisions. And then this opens a huge thing of, okay, but you are going to use AI, and then what if the AI is biased? And there are lots of different ways in which an AI can be biased. So what we have, long story short, what we have been observing is that different, depending on what is the system prompt you use, depending of what is the type of case, depending of lots of different variables that we still don't know exactly what they are, but that we want to find out because this is important. They end up with radically different decisions. The sense that the winning party might depend on what AI they use to make the decision. In the same situation where, this is not new in the traditional world. There's lots of research done in the sense of the type of judge, that makes a decision in a case greatly affects, the decision, because if it is a judge, doing the decision after, lunch or before lunch. Or I remember one, William, where the guy had to decide after his team won or lost the previous day in the college championship of basketball, and you lost this big game against, I thought the example we were using, Alabama losing to Auburn, the big final, and then Monday the guy needs to make a decision about a death penalty for a black person, and this type of situation of perfect nightmare could happen. Humans are obviously biased creatures, and the legal systems have tried to implement a number of situations where if one of the lawyers of a party thinks one of the persons of the jury could be biased because of whatever, they could challenge that jury and remove it. And then there is this also very good movie with Gene Hackman, Runaway Tribunal, and do watch that one. It's a guy who is actually an expert in challenging jurors for criminal cases. And the guy, he has a big data tools to try to predict, and this is like 20 years ago, I mean, to predict how each of the jurors will decide based on previous education history, well, all of the variables they have, and then they challenge those that will rule in the other side favor. So this is a really interesting. Okay, so AIs have the same type of biases because of the way in which they were trained. And so our thesis is that what will happen, besides having the human panel for reviewing AI decisions, we will never have like an AI making a decision that cannot be appealed. There's always going to be like a possibility of appealing to humans. But what we think is going to happen is that we will have agents being jurors, and these agents will be selected. There will be many agents doing the decision, not just one, and those agents will also be chosen in such a way that they combine different skills, different views of the cases, and this can be done through soul-bound tokens. So maybe give a bit of a teaser of the research that's going on, William, about this, so we can give a teaser for the Oxford conference for whoever wants to go.
Yeah, so I mean, in addition to the sort of like empirical behavioral research on AIs, where you ask, like, you run tests and you see if they're ruling different ways. There's also the sort of theoretical research, which in some ways isn't that different from the theoretical research for human beings. And like, okay, like the AIs may have these like traits, these characteristics, which can be attested to through some kind of soulbound token. Like you as the AI, owner, you made this thing, you can submit your AI to some kind of curated list saying this AI has these properties. It deserves some soulbound token that can go through review by Kleros jurors. And then you can weight the selection process for your jurors using these characteristics. For humans, they might be university degrees or like residence in some place. For AIs, they might be something else. Design, like deterministic, some other kind of like properties that you can prove your AI to have. I ran it against these benchmarks and it did this well. Ultimately, then you put them into weighting formula, which can be used for either humans or AIs, that try to come up with a diverse panel. Make sure you have the criteria, the skills that you want, but then also try to have kind of robustness of decision that comes from the wisdom of diverse crowds by intentionally weighting so that you get extra diversity. And we've done various research on that over the years. I wrote a couple blog articles about this about a year ago, but you can apply these same sorts of ideas for AIs, and we're continuing to sort of research along those lines.
Awesome. Anything else, William? Or we're good?
No, that's all for me.
Yeah, and just for me, mention that we just submitted a chapter. I mean, we just spoke, a bit about the consumer cases of Kleros and the everyday on Rosita cases. Now, also we do all of the future of finance cases as well, because we do a bit of everything. And so we submitted a chapter on Kleros for DeFi, in the sense that can be used for curating, crypto assets against risk, preventing situations where you have some big problem with a collateral because some hack. So a bunch of situations where Kleros can be used both as an ex-ante preventive tool to avoid, something going wrong. What regulation typically does in finance, and also situations where Kleros is used as dispute resolution system to resolve and to split the pie of what needs to be distributed between the, holders of the assets or whatever when something actually goes wrong. So we put into this chapter many of our ideas and our experience in dispute resolution of situations, happening in DeFi protocols, insurance protocols, and all that. It's going to be like a part of a law and finance and book from Edward Elgar, which is extremely important. And the good thing is that we just we get invitations to write in those books. They don't come to us, hey, write a chapter about technology and finance or DeFi, or we could perfectly do that, but they tell us we wanted to write a chapter on decentralized justice and DeFi. It's kind of already the category is that. So when they plan the book, they plan it in such a way that there should be a chapter on decentralized justice. Wolters Kluwer wanted decentralized justice and AI, which we wrote, and this is now published. It's still, I mean, it's in the, if you need to be a subscriber to read it, but it's going to be published as a physical chapter in a few months. And then, you know, the DeFi, so I'm sure we will have more invitations to write chapters, different elements. You know, I can already imagine, you know, this is definitely going to happen, you know, decentralized justice in construction. I mean, this is a big, you know, arbitration construction. And when someone starts thinking of like the future of innovation in construction and arbitration, I can always almost bet that there's going to be like a Kleros chapter there. So this is great. Okay, so we have that, and then we will have, okay, I guess that's it. So we will tell you when the chapter is going to be published, the DeFi and Kleros chapter. And well, I guess that's it, guys. We will see each other again on Monday at 6 p.m. of Argentina, which should be like a 9 p.m. Of UTC, in case you want to see it, for the Spanish community call. And I guess that's it for today. Thank you all for coming, and see you Monday. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.